Hello folks, this is Henry coming to you from the splashy bathroom. Yep, there's kind of always this sound going on. My shower isn't running, I don't know where it's coming from. But anyways, so this week I haven't done one of the videos on where astral projection is at for me lately, because I've been kind of stumped-ish. You have to sort of relax your body and then get into sort of a trance state, and then from that trance state you can then, there are different techniques that you can use to get out of your body. So that was going pretty well, but then I was getting kind of stumped on it. But then this past week I heard of sort of a variation on how to get into the trance state, and so I'm kind of changing methods. But I think it might be a little bit better for me. And so what the initial method was that you can either lie down or sit down, and you sort of like tense all of your muscles for a few seconds and then release, and then tense all of them, and you just kind of do that for a little while. So that sort of relaxes your muscles. And after you relax your muscles, then what's the next thing you do? Well, I've said in another video, there's this book called The 90-Day Guide to Astral Projection. And I think going through that book is really helpful, and I really recommend that. It's by Robert Bruce. But basically, so I'm not going to go, I don't really want to go through the whole, I could go through their guide, so I'll just tell you their guide, but I think it's more helpful to read the book because they have lots of comments along the way, if that makes sense. But basically, the method from where I've gotten to, and I still have maybe about 30 days left of this working through their program. But so you sort of relax your muscles, and then you do a sort of breathing exercise where you breathe in for 8 seconds and you hold your breath for 8 seconds, and then you let your breath out for 8 seconds. And I definitely will say breathing exercises can be you want to be careful with breathing exercises, so that's what I'm saying what the method is, but you should definitely read it because they have lots of warnings and things like that. So you relax your muscles, you do breathing, and then what's next? Then you do a thing where you pretty much, you imagine where your main energy centers are. So sort of at the base of your spine, in your sort of around your navel area, at the top of your belly, over your heart, over your throat at the bottom here, and then up at your brow, and then the top of your head. And you just kind of imagine that you're pulling apart pieces of bread, and that sort of stimulates those areas, and that can put you into a trance state, but it loosens up what they call your energy body. And so I still like to do that. It feels good, and especially if you're skeptical about, chakras or energy centers or things like that, when you go and you do that and you spend some time on that, it's really kind of was the first thing that really made me think that the astral projection and things like that and chakras and all that sort of stuff was definitely was more likely to be real once I started doing some of those techniques, because I had a really vivid sensation in those areas that kind of makes it's almost overwhelming. So you do that, so you do your breathing, you do your muscle relaxation, you do your energy center loosening, and then you get yourself into a trance state. So there are a lot of ways to do that. This whole time you have your eyes closed. So to get into the trance state, again, in the book there are lots of different ways to do this, but you can imagine yourself going down an elevator and just relaxing more and more. So you close your eyes, imagine yourself going down an elevator. Imagine you're, going down one of those gated elevators, and you can see the brick rising up and going up while you're going down. And so you get into your trance state after you are in, and you can really feel it once you can kind of just go deeper and deeper, and your body sort of feels warm and fuzzy and loose. And once you've been getting into your trance state, then you do something where you sort of loosen up your energy body a little bit more, so you sort of can become aware of your whole body as far as you can feel it, and then imagine it expanding. And so imagine you're sort of growing and filling up the room, and then imagine yourself shrinking down to a really small size in your room. There are other techniques they describe in the book, and that's just one. And that starts to loosen things up, and then you do an exit technique. So, because once you start to loosen things up through one of these methods, you'll often start to feel these full body vibrations that are really powerful. And then you are supposed to do an exit technique, and so that can look like imagining a rope is in front of you and then seeing yourself climbing up that rope through the room. And that and other methods will help you pull your astral body out of your physical body. And this is just a copy of your sort of spiritual body, if you want to call it that. And then you're out, and then you can go out and do things, but they recommend that the first time you're out of your body, you should make it sort of a quick thing so that you can come back and then you remember it, because your physical body in that state is almost sort of in a dream state. You've almost fallen asleep, but you haven't completely, so you want to get back to your body that first time, the first few times before your body falls asleep, because when your body falls asleep, then you're less likely to remember the experience. So back to what I was saying at the start. So that was pretty much the method that I was following, but a lot of what you're doing in that requires you to sort of once you've relaxed your muscles, you can do a breathing technique, and then you loosen up your energy centers. After that, it's pretty imagination oriented. So going into the trance state, you're seeing yourself going down an elevator. And then loosening up, you're seeing yourself grow in your room, and then you're seeing yourself pull yourself out of your body. And for whatever reason, that going through those visualizations, it started to become routine and feel less visceral. And so then it just sort of, it wasn't becoming very effective for me, because it's almost like, walking down a street that you've never walked down before. You're gonna be maybe a little bit more alert, seeing things. Ooh, there's the pizza parlor. I can smell the pizza and the cat pee and things like that. But then once you walk down the street a few more times, and if that's, part of your daily routine, then you're just thinking about it less. And a big part of those techniques is to get you to be out of your body, out of your mind, out of your thinking mind. So if going through those visualizations becomes routine, then I definitely find that my mind that is commenting on things, making observations, sort of starts to come back, because it's less like, ooh, that's interesting and that's important for getting out of the body. So something that I saw this week that has felt helpful so far to me, and I think is probably going to be more effective for me. And if doing that imagination stuff is good for you, then that's great. But for me, the new technique that I was hearing about was basically, you still relax your muscles. You can do a breathing if you want to, loosen up your energy centers, do that stuff. You can do some trance things, like going down the elevator. And I find that going down the elevator, that still is pretty engaging for me, because that feeling, I have a strong memory of the feeling of an elevator going down, and that's sort of important to, I guess, imagine yourself feeling in order to get into a trance state. But then what they recommend you do then is to imagine a shape. And so it can be, a square, a sphere, something like that. And then just sort of imagine it in your mind and let it become more and more vivid. And then once that shape is really clear in your mind and in your imagination, and you have focus on that shape or that object, then start to sort of look around and see the space around that shape. And that gets you into a pretty deep trance state. And I find that for me, when I was starting to do that, it was really easy for me to tell when my mind was wandering, because if you're just imagining a sphere, it's pretty straightforward to look at that, and then if your mind wanders off, you can kind of bring it back to that. But if you're doing something that's more almost story oriented, then it's easier for my mind to sort of take over that story, and then, which, maybe could be good. But anyway, so that was feeling helpful. And then what's supposed to happen is that once you've seen the shape and you've seen the area and the space around the shape, then you'll sort of start to feel vibrations, and you can do, again, one of these sort of exit techniques where you imagine yourself climbing a rope or something else like that. But I think that for me is more helpful, because it gets you into a state where you're seeing objects and you're feeling more in a sort of imagination space, which is important. So you sort of separate and your body just like gets really close to that sleep state, and then you can do your whole exit thing to get out. So I'm gonna keep on trying that this week, but it's been a little bit of a bummer that I sort of wanted it all to work sooner and things like that, but it hasn't, so that's all good. And I think the challenging thing for me, if anything, is the skepticism that comes back in. It's like, oh, maybe this is something that doesn't exist. I think of the example is, we got a waterfall. The example that I think of is Linus in Charlie Brown, with the great pumpkin Charlie Brown, where he's staying up to see the great pumpkin, and then the great pumpkin doesn't come. So who knows? But I got I don't really have a blankie, but anyway, so that's kind of where that's at, and so I'll probably won't check in weekly on this. I'll probably check in when there's something interesting to talk about. But hopefully that was helpful, and we'll catch you all around. Bye.